Okay, Ben Fulford commenting just before the break on the Toyota Motor Company's recent difficulties and suggesting that the Americans, through computer and other electronic gadgetry, can cause all kinds of things to happen in automobiles, and they can.
Or you can just trump up charges. I mean, if you really analyze what they're doing to Toyota, they're saying, hey, new cars, they only stop at 12.6 meters. Your previous cars, they can stop at 12.4 meters. So what's going on? You kill people. And, they're using...
45,000 people a year die on the American highways, all right? There are a myriad of different causes. Most of them are involving drinking and driving. Innocent victims. There are a lot more automobile suicides than most people would recognize or understand. There's a lot of stuff going on.
They came to me before I went to Rome and saying that our Ambassador Armitage is kind of running out of tricks to do to try to manipulate the Japanese political system. You see, what this is all about is the Japanese have said to the Americans, hey, you know what? We don't want to pay for your giant military bases anymore. We don't want to pay for your huge worldwide military establishment. It's not doing us any good, thank you. And the people who have run the military for all these years are saying, oh, my God, well, no, what about China? We've got to fight China militarily. And they can't understand. They're just saying, well, no, we have to have, giant bases. We have to have war. We have, they're unable to think outside of that paradigm of, who's going to fight who's the next enemy.
Right.
And if you say to the people at the Pentagon, hey, listen, you guys, look, I have some bad news for you. There are no enemies right now.
Well, they're running out of Hitlers, are they?
Well, yeah, and the other thing is, they send a lot of different people to talk to me. And some of the stuff you're going to have trouble believing because they've lied to you so much. But, for example, they sold the Iranians 12 neutron bombs on missiles. Now, you remember, neutron bombs kill people but don't destroy buildings.
Say that again, Ben, please.
They sold the Iranians 12 neutron bombs.
Who sold them? Who sold them?
My source for this is the cousin of the Shah of Iran.
All right. Who sold the Iranians the neutron warheads?
Well, the Skull and Bones people, George Bush Sr. and George Bush Jr. and that whole group, Clinton, those people.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about the United States.
Oh, of course not.
They're cynical scumbags, and they said, look, we'll give you these missiles. You can go and you can depopulate
they didn't need the missiles. They just needed the warheads. They didn't need the missiles.
They have the warheads. They have the missiles.
All right.
The thing is that Ahmadinejad is a Jew. He said, I'm not going to go and kill all those fellow Jews. For what reason? And so they try to trump up charges against Iran and invade Iran instead. These people are into war and mayhem. They don't care who fights who as long as they're all fighting and they can sell them all weapons and then sell them dead.
Their latest trick, of course, is creating natural calamities as well. They like that, too.
Yeah, now that's their new kind of image. They say, okay, if we go in and invade somewhere like Iraq and kill people, then everybody gets angry and it's bad for PR. So
pretty
from
obvious,
now on,
right.
We'll create national disasters, and then we'll go there and help those people, and then we can look good as we steal and plunder.
Right.
This is how they think.
Sure.
It's primitive, it's disgusting, it's awful, but they took over your country.
Yeah. No
They're
argument
not for
here.
long.
Yeah.
I think the Pentagon people finally said, what are we doing? Who is forcing us into all these wars and why? And they're waking up. They're saying, hey, we've been manipulated. We're being used. We're being abused. Because the thing is that despite all that your armies have done that is evil, okay, they've always had to have the pretense, the facade, that they're doing something good. We're here to promote democracy. We're here to get rid of a tyrant. We're here to help these people. Mm. They have to do that because otherwise the average soldier will not fight. If they say, hey, we're here to kill people and steal oil, they're going to say, what? Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm a decent Christian. You can't make me do that.
Well, you've
so
seen
they
those.
say, hey, no, We're here to promote democracy and freedom, to help these people from that horrible tyrant.
We're here to force it on them. You've seen those really pathetic prayer groups of Marines before they go out to slaughter and kill people. You're right. By the way, you knew, as a former Asia Pacific Bureau Chief for Forbes magazine for 8 years, you probably knew a long time ago that Iraq, in fact, most likely, I'd call it a slam dunk, has more oil than Saudi Arabia. This was one of the big secrets. You didn't see it very often before the first Gulf War with Bush 41, but I did see stories about this, and the geologists were quite firm. They said there is more oil in Iraq than there is in Saudi Arabia. And now the latest stories are beginning to admit to that.
Yeah. And it's not just that there's more oil. Okay, look. There's more oil in Colorado than all of the Middle East. It's
That's
just that
true,
in
too.
a shale, and it's a bit more expensive to extract. Maybe it costs you $15 a barrel instead of $1 a barrel.
By the way, the Chinese are being consulted now by the Canadians in terms of having them come in and work their oil sands, their tar oil sands.
Well,
they want the Chinese technology involved. The Americans don't want to mess with it, I guess, or they're not bidding low enough.
Well,
high enough.
The fact of the matter is that you don't need to pollute the northern part of Canada by extracting all that stuff, because oil as a source of energy is obsolete. The whole paradigm is wrong. We don't need oil. We don't need hydrocarbon. We don't need coal. We don't need nuclear. I've been shown all sorts of technology that allows us to have as much energy as we want for practically zero. The oil, it should be used as a construction material. It is not a source of energy. This is where it's all wrong, right from the beginning. So digging up all that sand and heating it and taking the oil out is destroying the environment for no good reason. Canada doesn't need it. The world doesn't need it.
Mm-hmm.
What I kept telling the oil companies is that, look, we'll help you go through a transfer to the new technology so you don't lose money.
Right.
I think I've given the example before, but I'll give it again. We don't need to protect the Stonecutters Guild and by suppressing, metal axes and knives. We can teach the stonecutters to make a living selling knives and axes made out of metal. So the oil companies are the world's best giant projects engineers, okay? They can build huge machines and do big stuff. So instead of drilling holes in the ground and sucking oil out with a straw, we're telling you, look, we'll build gigantic farms to take the salt out of the seawater. We'll build huge canals, and we'll create artificial rivers. We'll turn the deserts green. Imagine how much work there will be. Imagine the profit. There will be far more money than you ever got from oil.
Yeah, right. Well, it's all true. Now, let me ask you, before you leave, we have just 2.5 minutes left. The Chinese, of course, have walked away from the so-called developed world with their 250-mile-an-hour trains and their beautiful stations. They're going to be building, I guess, 50 more of them. You'll be able to go from one end of China to the other in about 8 hours on high-speed rail. Obama's counter to that, the Obama cartel regime, was to pump in around 8 to 13 billion, which is not going to build one new high-speed rail system. They're going to upgrade existing tracks so the trains can go a little faster. This is a joke. It's an obscenity. The Chinese are walking away, as I said, leaving the West in the dust with their transport, their vision, and their architecture is gorgeous, too. We've seen a lot of pictures. So what are your thoughts about that?
What the Chinese have said is, look, this is our money. We're going to invest it how we want to invest it. We're going to build high-speed trains and new buildings and all that kind of stuff. They basically said, now we're not going to buy your paper anymore. And the problem is that the paper pushers who have taken over the United States don't want to give up power. They don't want to give up control.